Hey everybody, it's Allie here, and this is my friend Chris. This is our second time shooting this. We did this yesterday, and we're doing it again because we both were just so nervous and just feeling we didn't film this well yesterday, and we wanted to come back today and do a better job because, I'm a beginner interviewer, and we're sharing a really personal story here of Chris's. And honestly, like, we just really want to, like, the reason I felt so inspired to interview Chris was because he just has this incredible story of, like, holy fuck, you've been through a lot of shit and you still turned out incredible. And even like the hardest things that most of us will never experience, you experienced them and you still leaned into that pain. You still dealt with it. And the courage and everything. And for me, I walked away from it being like, after hearing your story, being like, okay, my daddy didn't come to my horse shows. Oh my God, I can get over this shit. Like, hearing your story really inspired me. And so I really, really, really hope that other people can get that same feeling from hearing about your story. So we're going to do a round two of this interview. And anything you want to say to that?
Honestly, I think that it just speaks a testament of like how that video went yesterday wasn't because we're not good at doing video or anything like that. It's actually because this is such a crazy topic and it's such a hard topic to talk about.
So hard.
And it goes to show like how someone's past can still affect them many, many years later. Like, it's still such a hard topic to talk about, even though the stuff that happened to me happened 20 plus years ago. It's still so hard to talk about, and it's so hard to get through. Right. So
it is.
Yeah.
Well, let's just give each other permission to be brave here and just be honest. And hopefully we can inspire other people to feel like it's okay to not be okay and to go backwards in order to go forward. So let's go to the struggle. Talk to me about being a kid.
Yeah, for sure. So my life right off the bat, it kind of started, I didn't get a good hand dealt to me. I've experienced, honestly, I don't know what abuse I didn't experience. Right out of the gate, it was, my mom would literally she was drug addict. She partied all the time. I'd be at home and me and my sisters would be hungry and she'd be passed out on the couch with a needle on her arm or drugs on the table or alcohol everywhere. It was crazy. And as like a 3, 4, 5-year-old kid, which I remember back then, it was hard. And it started off right off the bat like that. And even though I knew something was wrong and I knew that wasn't how it should be, it still kind of felt that was just my normal, right? And for me, it was about surviving right off the bat. I came to this world and I didn't really have someone to help me survive. I had to learn all of that on my own, how to feed myself, how to feed my little sisters. I remember, like, here's just like a quick memory, I guess, but I remember she was passed out on the couch. Mom was passed out on the couch and I was 5. My oldest sister was 3. And then we had a baby sister as well, who's still in diapers. We had no food in the house. Like, I remember going through they're screaming because they're so hungry. And I remember going to the cabinets and like opening the cabinets. There's like muffin mix in there that had like bugs in it. There was like mustard, like condiments in the fridge. And then we had like we had a bit of puffed wheat in this bag with some old jam in the fridge. And I remember like, all the dishes were dirty. We had these like cupcake tins that have been in there for like, who knows how long, of those like paper cups. So I filled a paper cup filled with puff wheat and I put a dollop of jam on it for my sisters to eat. And there wasn't enough for me to eat. And I'm like starving. And I was like, okay, we need to figure something else out. So I packed up my sisters, and we lived in the ghetto in Saskatoon. And I packed up my sisters. One was like just walking in a diaper and no shoes. And we walked to my grandma's house, who lived, I think it was 15 blocks away. And we just walked. And I remember being so scared because the other thing, my mom used to scare me, say, I'd be kidnapped if I ever left, that kind of stuff. And so I'm like walking to my grandma's house just to get food, with carrying a kid. I'm 5 years old, literally carrying my one sister in a diaper, no shoes, walking 15 blocks to get food. And like, I remember that stuff. And it, like, that experience, and I've talked to later on, I talked about like, or going to see a counselor, which I do now. And this specific event, this one event, has affected me my entire life. And it made me realize that for me, I've struggled with my weight kind of all my life, because one of the things is, as soon as I was able to pay for my own food, maybe go to McDonald's or whatever, I would just like I just eat whatever I could. Or if I had a plate of food, it doesn't matter how much is on there or what it is. I just finish it all. Even if I shouldn't, or if I'm full, I just finish everything. Because when I was a kid, and this particular event, I didn't know when the next time I'd get food. Like we'd
Right.
go days sometimes without eating. So
Right.
like for me, it's ingrained in my head that I just got to eat everything in front of me, because I don't know when the next time I'm going to get food is, which is ridiculous now because I eat well now, and I don't have to ever, not my kids will never need to worry about when the next meal is coming. But for some reason, it's ingrained in my head that if there's something in front of me, I got to eat it, and I got to eat it fast so no one else can eat it. So
Totally. Survival of the
crazy how
fittest.
something like that carries with you. Yeah.
So I just want to circle back to, okay, so you're a kid,
Mhm.
you're under 5, you know, you're a kid, you have needs,
Yeah.
protection, things like that, and you don't have that. Like, what's that like to be a 5-year-old and to be like, I gotta take care of myself? Like, do you have feeling around that at that point? Or like, what story do you create in your head about what life's about?
Honestly, it was incredibly lonely. Like being that age, because at that age we also didn't have friends. We didn't really have family that came around. Really, it was just my grandma was my only saving grace, essentially. But even then, she was old and she couldn't do much, and it's extremely lonely and scary.
Yeah.
And just the feeling of like not having anyone there to help you is a little overwhelming, especially when you're that age. Even now, like I'm 32 years old right now, and if I didn't have anyone there for me to be able to help me, I'd feel so alone and lost. And
Right.
then as a kid, when you that's why your parents are there, is to help you to get through this stuff, right? And not having that it's just a very lonely experience to have.
And so how did that, so you feel that feeling of like lonely, or like did you have any other like coping mechanisms or just like beliefs around like, you know, your worth and all this, like your mom doesn't show up for you, like, and how many of those things, those beliefs or those feelings got brought up into your adult life, and how many get impacted by in your relationships and in your work life? Like, what narratives came to at that time that are now part of your adult, or were pre your counseling
Yeah,
or something you work on that you're now in your adult life?
honestly, like my probably one of my biggest issues in life is just like I have abandonment issues, right? Like
Totally.
that's from then. That's my mom abandoning me. She
What
wasn't
is
there
a
for me.
what does abandonment issue mean? Like, what's an abandonment issue and how does that surface?
I have problems with people, and where I feel like if I bring someone new into my life, this is literally something that I've only talked about with my wife and my counselor. So like now this being out there where everyone's going to watch is kind of a little overwhelming, but the
And take your time.
abandonment issues, yeah, no, the abandonment issue that I have is like, I'm so worried that if I bring someone new in my life and I bring them close, that they're just going to leave
Right.
and not be there for me.
Right.
And I've literally had that my entire life. And that, to be honest with you, it has happened. It's happened lots. And really, like, give it to my wife. Like, she's the one person that has been there for everything. We've been together now for we've been married for almost 12 years. And she just keeps proving to me over and over again that she's never going to leave me. Like, we're together forever. Right. And so even though we've been together for this long, it's still what happened to me in the past still comes into that relationship too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's still that the whole abandonment thing. Just, I don't, I think that I'm going to be struggling with this for a very long time. My counselor says that it's something that we will definitely get through. So I'm excited about that, but
And so, like, what is that narrative in your head? So you meet a new person, you're like, I love this person. This person's so great. Or
yeah.
you bring them into your life, and you know, does it create trust issues? Does it create like, I'm gonna love you at an arm's distance kind of things? Or like, what does abandonment issues look like in terms, like, I know your wife is someone you've obviously been able to kind of, she's probably been like the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But like with other people, abandonment issues, like, what does that look like in terms of your relationship quality and how you treat other people and what you believe about other people who are in your life?
it's there's a couple things. So the first thing is that for some people, I struggle letting them in or letting them get close, because I know that if I don't let them get in, if I don't let them get close, I don't have to worry about if they abandon me, right?
Right.
So I kind of put a barrier up there, which is something that I'm working on and trying to bring down. The other thing is it really affects my self value, and this is something I've been talking with my counselor with
Mm.
actually really recently. Is that um, I really think down on myself, and I attribute my successes to other things that have nothing to do with me. It's like, oh, because of this or because of this. And so a perfect example is, so I was going for this podcast where I wanted to be the host of this podcast. It was kind of a competition where we had to source, produce, and host our own episode of this podcast. And I reached out to the CEO of the mortgage national network that I'm a part of, Chris Turcotte, and he's really good with this. And I was like, he's perfect for me to interview for this. And then he was like, originally it was just going to be like an audio version where I was going to call him and we were recording, and that's that. And he's like, how about if I fly there? I'll bring my video guy. I'll fly there. We'll do it in person. And yeah, and I was like, okay, that's sweet. That's awesome. And I already built a relationship with Chris as well a little bit. I was like, okay, that's awesome. So we did it. We committed to it. And then the day before, a couple days before, I started getting really nervous, and not because I was going to be on video or because we were going to talk or anything like that. But I was like, why is this guy taking time out of his day, out of his own dime to fly here just for me? Like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve his friendship. You know what I mean? And so I put up these guards where it brings down my self-worth, where I'm like, I don't deserve this. But in reality, I provide value to him too, just like he provides value to me. And that's how friendships and relationships work in general. But I have a hard time accepting that I provide value to people. I know it's so silly to say, because I do things for people and I help people out. I make people laugh. So, I mean, obviously there's value there, but up in here, it doesn't register as that.
I fully get that. Like, even in like doing video content like this, like yesterday I had a meltdown because I was like, I'm adding no value. Like, there's like it's like, it gets so personal so quick.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't have value. I don't add value. Like, and the cost to me, and like, let me know if you can relate. It's like, it makes me play really small in my life, because I'm just like, I'm not willing to take risks. Like, I'm not like, I don't see my worth in this. Like, and you know, it's there. And you also know, you're also kind of like, I don't know who the fuck's the judge of that shit. Like, let's just call that out,
it's
right?
You're the judge, though. That's just it. Is like, no one else is thinking this. It's literally, everyone's thinking, like, I have friends in my life where I'm like, why are they my friends? Like, they're so much better than I am. They could find better friends. And then I've actually had these conversations with some of these people, and they're like, man, you make me laugh. We have good conversations. You help me out when I have issues or I have questions or whatever. Right. I'm like, oh, I didn't know
but
that.
But your own narrative is saying you're not enough. And when you really like question that, and that's the beauty of therapy, is it gives you a chance to kind of like look at that and say, where the fuck did that thought come from? What happened? And sometimes it is so situational. Someone left you. Like, what does that mean about me? You know, and then it's kind of like, you get to kind of challenge if that's true or not through therapy, and it's work. And I'm sure it still comes up for you all the time. It's like you're saying, therapist, like, you can get through this. I promise. Like, you'll get through it, but you're like, oh yeah, it's still real.
Well, that's literally like, there's two reasons why I wanted to do this interview with you, is because, one, it's going to help me with my healing. Like, coming out, I have this giant secret that I've been carrying my entire life on my back. I need to get this out because I'm tired of hiding it. And that's why, again, I did that Bell Let's Talk videos, because I just wanted to get some of that secret out. Because people look at me and they're like, I would have never thought that you went through that as a child, right?
Totally.
So there's that. It's like this, I want to unload this secret on so it's like on everyone else's backs too. Now it's kind of like spreading the weight of my secret on everyone versus just on me.
So quick question on that, actually, before that passes, because I think there's a lot of people who are feeling similar to you in that they're like, I am living under the shame of my secret. You know, what does expressing and just being honest about your story, one, what's the story you're telling yourself as to why that's wrong, why you shouldn't do it? And two, what is the value? Like, how do you, like, why is it so great to like let it go?
So the reason why I kept it a secret for so long was because, like, I'm a guy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a dude. Dudes don't have mental issues. I mean, now it's becoming more and more, the stigma is kind of going away and it's being more accepted. But for so long, that's what it was. Like, I'm a guy, I have to deal with it. And I did deal with it in my own way. It didn't end up working because it's affecting me in my life. But I hid it because I was embarrassed. You know, some of the things that happened to me, it wasn't just not being able to eat or my mom being a drug addict or anything like that. It was like later, even more later on in life, I was sexually abused by my step parents, you know, and for many years. And it was really, really bad. And that's embarrassing. You know, that stuff doesn't happen to a 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean? And it was shame that just kept me from opening up and talking about it. I didn't want everything I built today was because of me, what I built. And I didn't want everything that I built to come crashing down because now everyone knows this embarrassing secret about me. And so I kept this a secret for so long, or I only told certain people. And it was exhausting, honestly. Carrying a secret like that is exhausting. And so to answer your second question, to be able to just let it out in that video I posted was such a freeing moment for me. There was a lot of stress leading up to it. That video was 3 years in the making. And there was a lot of stress leading up to it. But once I posted it, and then I started getting phone calls. I started getting DMs. I started getting phone calls. I started getting texts, email, like you name it. People were reaching out to me and they're like, man, I went through something similar. Or I also went through some bad stuff and I never talked about it. And this is inspiring me. I've had people that message me and said, I'm going to do a video now. And then they went and did a video.
Yeah.
And like, it was so empowering for me and so just like liberating to be able to just take this weight off. And now it was so freeing. And that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. And that was the other thing is like, not only did I do this to help my healing process, but I also did this because I know that there's other people in this world that went through similar stuff to me or went through just their own personal stuff and they're hiding it and they don't feel like it's okay or they're ashamed and they're embarrassed to come forward and talk about it. And I wanted people to know, like, look, it's okay. I'm okay. I went through some very, very bad stuff. And, typically when people go through the stuff that I went through, they have a really high chance of committing those same things as they get older. And I broke that cycle and I'm still continually breaking that cycle. And I wanted people to know that you can do it too. And you're not alone in this whole thing.
And to not be alone, how do you how would you tell somebody like that, like they're sitting on, or maybe someone's watching this and they're like, it resonates for whatever reason. And they're like, I'm different. I can't talk about the things that I struggle with. I think a lot of people believe that struggle is not okay. It makes them, there's something wrong with them. What would you tell somebody like that? It's like, you're different. You're stronger than me, or my situation was different. It's okay for you, but it's not okay for me. What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say that you have to find someone to talk to. Like you have to find even if it's not doing a video, or you have to find some outlet to get it out. And so my counselor, his name's Myron. He absolutely saved my life. Like he's incredible. And it took me a very long time to find him. And one of the things he told me is, so he suggested he was the reason why I did that video for Bell Let's Talk Day. He didn't say do a video. What he said is that you have to get this out. You have to get this secret out in some way. And whether that's writing a book, whether that's doing a video, maybe writing a poem, or what happens, like you'll see artists do paintings and you'll look at it and you're trying to decipher this painting, but you don't know what it's about, but that painter knows what it's about. And so he's able to just get that all out on that paper. And it's just like, just even that, even though no one understands it but him, the fact that you're just getting this out there is so huge. So the people that are like, if you're watching this and you are struggling yourself and you don't want to come out and do a video about it or talk to someone or whatever, figure out some outlet where you can get it out, where even if it's only you that knows the meaning of it, do it. Get it out there, and that starts that healing process.
That expression is just such an important part. It's so interesting because so many people reached out to me, like similar situation. Another guy did a video when I did my video. It was so cool to just see like that ripple effect. But I know a lot of people really resist the pain. Like a lot of people are like the prerequisite to going and being expressive and letting it go is to actually feel it. And people just don't want to feel the pain.
The thing is that humans are hardwired for pain aversion, right? Like we're not hardwired to look at the future and have a goal and work towards that as an incentive. I mean, that is an incentive for a lot of people, but like hardwired, like if you get right down to who we are as people, it's pain aversion. Like if there's a stove, right, and you put your hand on that stove and you burn your hand, you're going to do everything you can to not put your hand on that stove again because you just burnt your hand. And it's the same thing as like if you opened up one time, which I did. I opened up to somebody before as a kid, and I was kind of shut down by that. And I was like, no, we didn't, it wasn't we don't believe you, or it didn't happen, or it wasn't as bad as what you're saying it is, or something like that. that hurt me. Like that was painful to hear that I didn't have that support. It just shut me down, and I never wanted to talk about it again because I didn't want everyone else to do that as well. So I was trying to avoid that pain by not talking about it again.
Right. But tell me what, and I always try to like relate it to working out. Like you will not build your bicep if you don't lift heavy, painful weights repetitively and legitimately tear your muscles.
Yeah.
But like that's the gain. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
and then there's people on Instagram lifting all these heavy weights repetitively and having millions of followers like and engage with them. And we're like, oh yeah, rah rah. But then there's like this, like, hey, like it's the same thing. Like you in your emotional pain, like you have to feel it. Like that's where all the gains are.
Yeah.
And you maybe have to rip a few muscles. And that's okay. Like that's
I like that
okay.
analogy. Yeah.
I think about it all the time when I'm like avoiding pain. I'm like, there's the gain in there, I promise.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. So what did leaning into the pain, how did that free you? How was there a benefit in that for you?
It honestly, it helped me grow. It's changed me as a husband. It's changed me as a dad. It's changed me as a business owner. Like it's just changed me in so many ways because it made me realize that I can do anything. Like before I felt like, I know I made this analogy before, but I felt like so long I was in this tunnel with no end in sight, this dark tunnel. There's no exits left or right or anything. And that there was just no end to this tunnel. And then that moment that I don't know if it was a deciding moment when I was kind of forced into counseling by a friend of mine. It was a good way. But me going to that counseling and starting to dig in and start, working on all those issues, which again is causing pain. Almost every single time I leave a counseling session, I'm crying, like almost every single time because it hurts. But then I also have this like freeing thing. I feel so good and proud of myself after a session. And it's all just helped me become who I am today. And it's something that I don't think I wouldn't be who I am today if I wasn't going through that pain again to sort through my issues.
100%. And like, I can really agree with that too. Of like the kind of the tell analogy, like I just felt so stuck. Like I just felt like I was like, you have ambitions, you have drive, you have dream, but it's like, you don't have that courage or that belief in yourself.
Yeah,
Or that
exactly.
even that trust too. Like I think when you do go through some shit and you go and you sort it out and you figure it out and you see it and you realize, oh my God, there was actually some good in it. Like when you actually see that the good on the other side of the pain, to me, it really builds resilience. And like you are a little bit more willing to take risk in life and to show up and be seen and just be a better version of yourself. Cause you're like, I know that even if I eat shit here, I know I have the skill set, the know-how and the courage to get myself back up again.
Exactly. And that's like, so for me, like with my business, the whole thing with COVID-19 happened. And then there's a lot of brokers in my industry that are kind of panicked about it because they don't know how the market's going to be when this whole thing blows over, or if it blows over, we don't know. But for me, it's like, whatever, I'm just going to figure it out. I've been through so much stuff. I've been through so much pain. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to come out better on the other side.
Totally. You're like, COVID? That's a joke. You should see what the shit I've been through. That's cute. As a man, I have like questions here. I'm not checking my phone. There's some questions. I want to be more prepared. As a man, I have a belief, and you can agree, disagree. Let me know. I think it's harder for men. Like honestly, I think my heart goes out for men. I've always kind of been a girl in a guy's world, from like playing baseball to dirt bikes and everything. And I always just I just kind of have this like insane empathy for men, because like you guys have such a different narrative around what is and isn't okay when it comes to being emotional beings. And I truly believe that emotions are not gender related. They are not, they're human, and I know as a woman, I already struggle with being like, it's funny, I can laugh in a crowd, but I can't cry in a crowd. Like even that to me is a weird concept, but I know it's so much harder for men. So like, who did you have to be the kind of man? Like, who did you have to be for yourself? Who did you have to be for your family? What beliefs did you have to change? What did you have to do to be the kind of man to walk to a therapist's office and be like, I need help?
I had to be vulnerable. Like that was just it. It's like I just had to, there's a proven method to heal. It's just, you know what I mean? Like I look at like, even with my business, for example, it's like, I used to do things that were like unorthodox to try and get business. But then I took a step back. I was like, you know what, there's a proven sales method that just works all the time, right? And so why reinvent the wheel? And that's the same thing with my mental health. It's like there's a proven method that works over and over and over again. What doesn't work is just throwing this stuff in the closet and never worrying about it again, because eventually you're going to worry about it. And so that's what I had to do, is I just had to take down those walls, be vulnerable, be brave, which is something I'm teaching my kids, and get out there and just talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So it's just really about being vulnerable, being brave.
I call them BandAid on bullet wound behaviors. And to me, they're like the avoidant behaviors. So like for me, it's like, I don't want to deal with my shit. You know, you're like, something comes up, you're like, yeah, sure, I'm hungry. Sure, I'll have a bottle of wine. Yeah, it's noon, whatever. Like, or you stay busy, or you clean the house, or you something like I call them BandAid on bullet wound behaviors, and you're just avoiding the problem and you're masking the problem.
Yeah.
Did you have clear identification on like, hey man, I know I'm in like that, like I know I'm in avoidant mode versus like, you know, for me, like processing or dealing with shit is like, hey, just journal, meditate, reach out to a friend, you know, whatever it is. Like, were you able to kind of diagnose that you had two different behaviors that way?
Yeah. It wasn't for so many years. And by so many, I mean like from the time that I was like young until a few years ago, actually, I just kept pushing things away. And I was like, I actually thought that it was working. I tricked myself, or convinced myself, that me pushing my feelings or all the past stuff in my basement to never have to worry about this again, that I was bringing along all the positives with me, but pushing the negatives down. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago when I actually realized, I'm like, holy man, one of the reasons why I struggle with weight is because of what happened when I was a kid. One of the reasons why I struggle to let people get really close to me is because of what happened when I was a kid. And I realized, I'm like, man, there's I need to figure this out. And that was kind of the driving force, was like, I need to be a better parent, or in order for me to be a better parent and a better husband and a better friend, I needed to fix myself first. And so I just realized that I needed to do something about it. And it helped. I did have a friend push me. He did say, he told me to go to a counselor, and this specific one. And I kept putting it off until he was like, look, I'm calling and booking you an appointment and paying for it if you don't do it right now. So after I got off the phone with him, I booked it and went in, and the rest is history. But
I still think that there's a lot of you in that too. Like what I learned through going through this process myself is like, I tried to make someone do it. You can't. Like, I think about how big my why was, and how much work it's been and how exhausting it's been and like how hard it's been. My why was enough to make that happen. You couldn't, like, to me, like, you couldn't make somebody do it. So like, I hope these videos encourage strength or courage in people to like maybe have a bigger want. Cause I think a lot of people don't feel happy. Like, they do feel disconnected. They feel like their goals and their dreams are getting further away. They feel like their relationships are struggling. They feel like they can't control their weight. And like, these are not outsourced size. Don't change the girl or the guy.
yeah,
Don't change the diet. Don't change, you know, like go deep, they go in,
I
there's
think
probably something going on.
there's definitely more to it than him just saying, I'm calling and booking you. Because the conversation that we had was like, look, here's the reason why I'm telling you to go see him. I was like,
Right.
this guy, I trust this guy and I look up to this guy. He's a friend of mine. And he told me that he struggled with some stuff, which I had no idea he struggled with some stuff. So he opened up to me and he was like, this is what I went through. And this is how Myron saved me. You know, like, this is what he did. And for me, I was like, yes, him saying, I'm booking it if you don't, was a motivating force for me to do it. But it was also the fact that, like, this guy who I had no idea even struggled, because he's just an awesome and phenomenal guy, that he went through this stuff, and this Myron person he's telling me to go talk to helped him. And it helped me realize that, to push that stigma out where, you know, counseling isn't good,
Right.
or, you know, dudes don't need to see counseling. It kind of helped me push that aside to motivate me more to get help.
And I think that's a huge call out. And I really appreciate you saying that, because I think my brother-in-law, similar thing. And he always says, my vibe is my tribe, or whatever. Like, in terms of like, you had people in your court being like, this is what's best for you. And like, we love you enough to tell you like, it's okay. And so for your peer group to even say like, it's okay, that's huge, right? Because if all your buddies were like, no, like, just have a beer, just wipe it on the, like, just don't worry about it. Like, that would probably would make it even harder, like, show up to that office and feel okay about it.
And that's like, so when I was 16 years old, the one thing, because like I grew up, like I said, in a not nice area either in Saskatoon. As you can imagine, you're surrounded with people that, you know, maybe aren't good role models. And so when I was 16, I left the situation that I was in, my mom, my adopted mom, she told me the one thing that stuck with me forever is in order to be successful in life, you have to surround yourself with successful people. Now, success can mean whatever you want it to mean. For me, I identify success as happiness and the ability to recognize that I'm not perfect and that there's always room for me to improve. So those two things for me, the constant ability to just improve and happiness are what I define success as. And so I want to surround people that also encompass that success, so that they're happiness, that are constantly trying to improve themselves. Where if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't fit that, you're going to have those ones that are like, just have a beer, just chill. You know what I mean? And so I think it's super important to have those friends that are encouraging.
I definitely noticed that a lot too through my breakup. Like I'd have friends like, fuck it, like let's just go party and like let's go there. Here, let me meet this guy. And then I have like my best friends and they're like, Allie, you go to therapy. Like you read
Yeah.
that book. And I'm
Go
like,
talk to somebody.
totally. I'm like, totally. It's
Exactly.
amazing. It's great to have those people.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of circle this up because I know people's attention spans are horrible. I want to ask one question. What is something, and I think I want, and I'm happy to be honest about this too. I want to hear, like, what do you still struggle with that that is still really real for you and is something that you're always working on overcoming? What's that thing for you?
I have so many things, to be honest with you. It's
like
the
new
one,
video.
the one thing is, yeah, the one thing is abandonment. Obviously I touched on that. It's that because I just recently recognized that as being an issue. The other thing is with my kids, like, as a parent, I had shitty parents and I'm always worried that I'm going to be a shitty parent. And I don't have anyone to look back on and be like, that's how to be a parent. You know what I mean? And so that's something I struggle to this day, where all I know is how I was raised. And my kids are at that age, like literally my kids are at that age when my bad memories started happening, when there wasn't food, when the abuse started happening. And then as they get older, I know, I guarantee you, I know that once my oldest gets to be around that 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, I'm going to start worrying about her being sexually abused. And that's something that I'm so scared of, is me having to, I don't even know how to say it. It's just me having to, in a world where where kids are having sleepovers with friends and going out with people, I'm going to have to just like let go and let her do her thing. Right. And I know that's going to be a struggle coming up soon.
No, I can see that, just being like, yeah, you can go somewhere. You're like, no, you can't. You stay here
I
forever.
know. And I know we talked about it before, but there's a couple things that I tell my kids where every day I drop them off from school or at school or daycare. And I tell them both. I tell them two things. One, make someone smile today. And two, I tell them do something brave. And then at the end of the day, when I pick them up or we get home, I ask them, who did you make smile and how'd you do it? And what did you do that was brave? And then if I did those things as well, those are goals of my life too. I always want to make someone smile and I always want to do something brave. And so then we just kind of do a recap on what did you do that was brave today and why was it brave? And I think those two things from my kids anyways are so important for life skills for them to learn, because one, making someone smile is so rewarding because smiles are so contagious. So if you can make someone smile, you're going to smile. It's going to make you feel good. It's going to make them feel good. It's going to make everyone else feel good. And it's just a good thing to have, a good talent to have. The other thing is about being brave. And this one's a little more important because for me to get out of this situation that I was in when I was a kid, I needed to be brave and I needed to have that courage. And for so long, I didn't. I wasn't brave. I didn't have the courage. And at least that's what I'm telling myself. I don't know. But because the abuse went on for so many years. And I knew, or I was like, I should tell someone, or I need to tell someone. But I was so scared of what people would think. I was so scared that people wouldn't believe me. I was so scared of, if I did tell someone, my dad would beat the shit out of me. It's like, I was scared. And it wasn't until I found that bravery, and it just happened. I just got this bravery where I was like, this is not happening to me anymore. And it wasn't until that moment that my life changed. And I want my kids to have the ability that twofold. One, if you're ever in a situation where you need to be brave to get yourself out or to put yourself in the situation or whatever, I want them to have that ability to be able to be brave. The
Right.
other thing is if you see someone that needs someone to be brave in that moment, that needs you to step up and do something for them, or if they're at a party when they're older and you see a girl being taken into a room by a few guys and she looks drunk, and I want my kids to be brave and be like, that should not happen, and not to stand aside and just let things happen. So
I love
yeah.
that. I really love that. One more question and then we're going to wrap her up. What would the cost be if you didn't get the help?
That's a tough question because it's kind of, I look at it as kind of like compounding interest. So like if you invest early into something, it's a good thing because that interest that accumulates is compounding interest as well. So your money grows so fast, right? Because if you started early, it's going to grow faster, which is awesome. But it also happens on the negative side where if a trauma happens and you're not dealing with this trauma, think of it as like a credit card or credit card debt where you're accumulating this debt, and now that interest that you're accumulating on this debt is also accumulating interest, and it just keeps building. So if I didn't start this now, or I guess a few years ago with this self-healing process, I don't know where I'd be in a few years from now, because it would just keep compounding worse and worse and worse, and I'd be honestly, it would probably put me in a pretty big depression. And so it's exciting and liberating that I'm dealing with this right now.
And I'm so proud of you. I know I don't really know you, but like I'm so proud of you because like I couldn't imagine, like I know how hard it is for me, and I've grown up in the therapy setting and that stuff's okay, and it's still so fucking hard.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you've done the work, and I know your girls probably just appreciate you being that kind of dad for them, and your wife being that kind of a husband. So totally appreciate all the work that you're doing. Any last words, advice, wisdom that you want to say to anyone that's watching this?
Yeah, I just honestly, like, for me, it comes back to the analogy of the light of the tunnel that I was in. If you're in a tunnel right now, if you find yourself trapped in this tunnel where there's no end in sight, I want you to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just gotta talk to someone and they will help you find it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. I'm going to hit record and you and I can hang out after this.